Indeed.
Good morning.
We'll go ahead. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Board of County Commissioners regular meeting, May 5th, 2026. We'll get started if you join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Any additions or removal from the agenda?
Under planning, we will take item number 3 and move that up to item number 2.
Okay. The agenda will stand and approved then. Constituent time, if there's anybody on the computer in the room that would like to address the board, would like to hear your comments now. If it has anything to do with item number 3 about the agricultural feeding operation, that item will be taken up at starting at 10 o'clock. So if you'd like to address it, then that'd be more helpful. Anybody in the room that would like to address the BOCC at this time? Okay. Go ahead, sir. State your name and address for the record, please.
Test. Yeah. Hey, good morning. Council, David Moran, 15525 Peach Road, Cedar Ridge, Colorado. Good morning, commissioners. I'm the CEO and founder of Energy Field Security at Cedar here in Delta, providing citizens update on our Pure Watt AI data power hubs and the Uravan AI power hub projects. Pure Watt is dispersed EMP GMD, which is EMP electromagnetic pulse and geomagnetic disturbance hardened behind the meter microgrid platform that repurposes legacy assets to the resilient AI data power hubs. We're layering the Grand Mesa hydropowers with a 369 turbine, hydrogen storage, VertiV's megavolts BESS, micronuclear SMR options underneath the NRC's Part 53 framework and the mGrid fractal controls to delivering island 4% baseload for the energy as a service without the PUC transmission reliance. This AI infrastructure will drive Delta County into the next future as the premier Western Slope hub for advanced technology, economic prosperity, and energy resilience. For the Uravan AI Power Hub, we are co-located these technologies at legacy coal sites within the Uravan mineral belt resources. This fully aligns with Delta County's 2023 and 2024 land use codes, particular Chapter 2, Section 4, F.1, Renewable Energy Facilities, which explicitly covers the BESS sightings, safety, and environmental standards. SMR integration is behind the meter components proceed via conditional use pathways reinforcing the NRC's March 25, 2026 Part 53 final ruling. This went in effect in April 29, 2026 for the risk-informed advanced reactor licensings. Now, the key benefits for the Delta County are high-paying jobs, tax revenue through an AI infrastructure attraction, wildfire and grid resiliency for our rural communities, and it's the support of the HB 261246. This is a consumer-regulated electricity going through the Congress and state Congress. The just transition goals and the 2025 resiliency framework. Process remains strong at 81% readiness. We have Hero X contest submissions. We've secured partners with several of our partners, our strategic partners. We have support letters for requests to the Municipal Light and Power, Moon Lake, and the EMP Task Force and Just Transition Funds alignment. Commissioners, Delta County can lead by confirming land use pathways under your code for BESS and SMR microgrids at suitable legacy sites. I request your partnership support with the ML&P and any facilitation, and I'm happy to deliver a one-pager concept page. Let's just meet, let me give you a full update. I mean, the last time I approached you guys was in February. This is just a 3 months. Hey, look what I've done. We're gaining traction. We really are.
Okay,
All right. I've also sent this in an email to the clerk's office for public notice.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And Chuck? No, okay. Is there anybody else in the room that would like to address BOCC about an issue they have other than the agricultural item that would start at 10 o'clock this morning? Anybody on the computer?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay. We'll close constituent time. County Clerk Tara Stevenson.
Good morning, Commissioners. This morning I'd like to bring up Renee Warner, Melinda Sanford, and Misty Reed. Renee is going to give you the right back information on the Elections Assistant Commission Learning Lab certifications. And then I would like to have them presented by the Board of County Commissioners. You guys recognize these ladies who have accomplished that in getting those certificates.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Recently, the U.S. Election Assistance Commission, or the EAC, launched a federal professional training program, which offers certification for election officials. This curriculum includes courses on the federal government and election laws, accessibility, election office administration, communications, voting systems and election technology, and poll worker training. While this training is supplemental to our required state training, the EAC complemented our state's existing program. To earn this federal certification, participants were required to complete 30 training credits. I'm pleased to announce that Election Supervisor Melinda Sanford, Election Technician Misty Reed, and I have successfully completed the program. We were formally recognized for this achievement last month during the annual Standards Board and Local Leadership meeting in Chicago. The clerk's office is dedicated to providing citizens with professional service. The expertise and integrity of our staff, combined with our ongoing commitment to the professional development, ensures continued confidence in our electoral system and the officials who manage it. I'm incredibly proud of our staff's continuous dedication to learning and improvement, and we are very fortunate to have a combined 34 years of experience within our department.
Great.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Warner, Sanford, and Reed sounds like a law firm.
We do have to interpret statute.
Well, congratulations, and I bet it was a good time to go to Chicago and to learn all those and get those credits.
It was nice, yeah, for sure.
Good. Thank you.
How many hours to earn those credits?
It took us, we did it, kind of in chunks. The trainings were between 15 and 20 minutes each. We exceeded the expectations and we took every single training. So I felt like it was over the course of several days,
Okay.
as time allowed. They were all online.
Well,
Very
great.
good.
Mhm.
Great.
Yes.
Well, we have some certificates
Okay.
up here we'd like to present to you.
You gotta come up through.
Thank you.
Congratulations. And Miss Reed. I'll put you on for you.
Okay.
You need to squeeze in.
1, 2, 3. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Thanks.
So it reflects well on work.
They do an amazing job of things too. Always make me.
And it's still yours.
Okay, so I have for your consideration the minutes for the April 21st BOCC regular meeting. Do you have any changes, deletions, or corrections?
I'm good.
Perfect. I also have for your consideration a special events permit for the Wilson Head Post number 987 American Legions located at 40772 Lamborn Mesa Road in Paonia. The dates for these special events will be July 2nd, July 4th, October 30th, December 19th, December 31st, all of 2026, and being held from 4 p.m. until 2 a.m. These are annual events, and I did notify the sheriff, and he has had no issues with any of their previous permits. Therefore, I would recommend approval of these special events for Wilson Head Post number 97.
Terry, quick clarification. You said July 2nd, it says July 3rd.
July 3rd,
Okay.
my bad.
Well, I'll move the board approve a special events permit for Wilson Head Post number 97. It's the American Legion located at 40772 Lamborn Mesa Road in Paonia for July 3rd, July 4th, October 30, December 19, and December 31, 2026.
I will second the motion.
Motion and second on the floor. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, so done. Thank you.
Thank you. I also have for your consideration a permanent sales room for Castillo Kesselman Vineyards LLC, doing business as Fallen Mountain, located at 29829 Stingley Gulch Road in Hotchkiss. I received their application, premises control plan, their diagram of the premises, and if you note on their program, on their control plan, why am I having a problem saying that? They are by appointment only, so it is very much something that is regulated. The planning department did receive their application and all documentation necessary for them to start their process. Therefore, I would recommend the board grant the application for the permanent sales room.
Terry, is this a new company?
It is.
In what location or?
It is going to be at the 29829 Stingley Gulch Road.
Well, I'll move the board approve the permanent sales room for Castillo Kesselman Vineyard LLC, doing business as Fallen Mountain, located at 29829 Stingley Gulch Road in Hotchkiss.
I will second the motion.
Motion and second on the floor. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, so done.
Thank you. That's all I have today.
First, under Commissioner business, then the board's consideration today is Mental Health Awareness Month for Tri-County Health Network. And I believe, Jackie, are you?
I'm here for it, but I represented it.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you, so go ahead. Can you unmute?
Hi, sorry, I wasn't sure if you were talking to me. Good morning, y'all. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you all making this proclamation for Mental Health Awareness Month and just wanted to shout out that May 15th is Be Seen in Green Day, which is a day to wear green to represent the month and the awareness and promote that mental health is something that we should and can talk about. And for more information, you can go onto our website, tchnetwork.org, to learn about our other offerings from Delta to San Miguel County.
Okay, thank you for that. Mental health is very important anymore with all the stress in our lives and how it affects different personalities at different ages. Mental health is something very important that we need to be aware of and do our best to help people through their times of need. Thank you.
Make a motion. Proclaim.
I'll do that one. I will move the board proclaim May 2026 as Mental Health Awareness Month and recognize and authorize the chair to sign the proclamation.
We're all signing it, but that's,
Oh, we all sign. Okay.
I will second the motion.
Motion and second on the floor. Any further discussion? What day do we wear green, did you say?
May 15th is Be Seen in Green. It's a Friday.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
All those in favor say aye. Aye, so done. And you have a copy of
I
that?
do,
Okay.
yes.
I'd also like to say Tri-County, if you get on their website, they have an amazing resource library of mental health resources. So one of the best in Western Colorado. So.
Thank you, Lindsay. And while we have a second, I just want to offer too that in Delta County, we have a program called the Recovery Access Fund, which is a therapy scholarship for folks who are going to therapy in relationship to substance use. It doesn't need to be a diagnosis. It's even for people who are sober curious. And that fund covers $125 per session, up to 12 sessions. And we partner with over 100 therapists throughout the state of Colorado. So if you know somebody who could use some help accessing therapy, especially at this time, we're seeing a lot of people losing Medicaid and Medicare access, please send them our way.
We sure will. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Okay, next for your consideration of a change order request from TVE Technologies for the hospital BDA fire-related cabling per 2026 RFP01 and an associated reduction in award to two-way communications for 2026 RFP02. An approval of invoice as part of the OEHI grant. And Chris Stewart is here.
Morning, Commissioners. Sorry for that long title. Robbie and John and I met about this last week. A couple months or meetings ago, you awarded the RFP 2026 RFP 01 and 2 regarding the Office eHealth Innovation Grant that we received. The vendor for the hospital BDA project, which was RFP 01, has submitted a change order for $73,728 to install the 2-hour fire rated cabling that's required by code for the BDA system. Even though this was included in the RFP as a requirement, they didn't bid it, thinking that it wasn't a code requirement. The code officials for the city have confirmed it is a code requirement, and DFPC has indicated in an email that after they review codes, they may enforce this requirement as well. So we have the money in the grant. I just had to reduce the award to RFP 02, contractor two-way communications, and buy less radios in order to shift the $73,728 to this project if we approve it. So the request today would be to approve the change order, and then the CVE for RFP 01 and increase that award amount, since it's over the $50,000 threshold. And then, subsequently reduce two-way communications award for RFP 02 from 241,658 to 168,065 and 30 cents. Questions? That's a lot of information. And I put a lot of information in the packet to you guys to show the change order and the full budget for this grant.
Chris, what is Dragon Cable?
It's a like a 1 inch or thicker cabling coax that when the building's on fire, it won't melt. And because this hospitals are a defend place location, they have to, and the whole purpose of the system is so that radios work for fire department when they're in fighting a fire interior to the building. This cabling won't melt in 2 hours of extreme heat within the building, so that's why it's so expensive. Prices range up to over $130 a foot for this cabling. And it's a life safety code requirement so that firefighters don't lose communications during a fire.
So who's the Peter that's getting robbed to pay Paul here again? We've got an increase coming out of.
We're reducing the number of radios that we're purchasing, which goes to the fire departments, but that way then neither the hospital or us are paying out of pocket for this. It would have been nice if they would have adhered to the requirements in the RFP and turned it in their initial bid, but they were the lowest bidder. The next highest bid was over $411,000, and they were missing components that the hospital would have to pay out of pocket for. So that's why we selected CVE in the first place. So even with this, it brings their total to $347,679. So they're still significantly under any of the other competitors for the project.
Okay. Fortunately, the radios are gonna suffer because of that happened.
We do still have a contingency fund that we've been holding. That's 42,000 in case anything else comes up. If we don't tap into that, the plan is to shift that 42,000 back towards radios, which is another 10 radios. So.
Well, I'm not sure what are we asking for? We're just asking for
To approve the change order.
Approve the change order.
so I'll make a motion that we approve the change order request that Chris just described. 2026 RFP-01, 2026 RFP-02, and approve the reduction in award of two-way radio communications and the invoice that is part of the OEHI grant. Is that stated correctly?
I will second.
Motion and second on the floor. Any further discussion?
That it would be in the amount of $74,000 for change order.
73,728 is the exact order.
74.
I round up.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Thank you, Chris, for all your hard work on that.
Thank you.
Hey, Miss Lindsay, with the schedule, please.
Today at noon, there is an emergency TT steering committee meeting. Later at 6 p.m. on our public and party meeting. May 6th, CWCRC implementation. May 7th, HNC legislative call. Excuse me. May 13th, CE Wednesday. Yeah. May 13th. Excuse me, May 14th, 8:30 a.m. AGNC. May 16th, 8 to 3 is the free county landfill day. May 19th, Boulder County Commissioners next regularly scheduled meeting, that's 8:30 a.m. May 19th at 1:30 is the Boulder County Commissioners work session with Road and Bridge. May 19th at 3:30 is the Board of Health meeting. May 25th. All day is, the administrative offices are closed for Memorial Day. May 27th, May 20.
I got a work session on the 26th penciled in.
Show that on any calendar.
Yep.
Do you? Anybody else?
It's at 8:30. It's a
It's just. a-
standing work session.
Right. June 2nd is a Republican Party meeting. We're moving the June 2nd. Oh, so you won't be here for the June 2nd Republican Party meeting. The June 2nd Board of County Commissioners meeting will be moved to June 9th because of the CCI summer conference. That takes us through.
May 30th was the building. Yeah.
No, and I'll. So Adobe Buttes cleanup is from 8 to noon. And we'll meet at the corner of Trot Club Road and Fairview Road. It is a volunteer event. It is on our Facebook and our website pages. And help us clean up papers. To call this or messages on social media platforms for more information.
I think that catches us up.
I did get an email, the bike to school day, the bike bus for the Nature Connection has been moved from the 6th to the 7th in June, so. I will update all calendars for that and send out a notice.
I'll have to change my reservation for my
Yeah.
bike.
Yeah, for the bike,
Bring your own bike, Mike.
Don't own one.
but check that bike bus out because it is, if you haven't seen. The Nature Connection is. Make sure to check out.
Okay. Thank you.
Looks good.
I have the jail report. For Monday, April 20th, 2026, Delta County Detention Facility Population Count Report. Male inmates County Jail 20, female inmates County Jail 4, male inmates Department of Corrections 2 for a total of 26. The average daily inmate population for the week of 4/13/26 through 4/20/26 was 36.74. The Delta County Detention Facility Population Count Report for Monday, April 27th, 2026. Male inmates County Jail 29, female inmates County Jail 8, for a total of 37. The average daily inmate population for the week of 4/20/26 through 4/27/26 was 40.26. And then, go ahead.
So at this time, Sheriff Taylor, you can come forward and.
Good morning.
Morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Sheriff.
We have search and rescue here today. We want to recognize a search and rescue member who's being called up from reservist to active duty. So Randy and Eric. So Stephanie is
here for a training talk.
We're very proud of you guys.
She has been called up to active duty, so she's going to be leaving us for a little while and going back to the Army. So we wanted to recognize her and thank her for her help with our team, and she's really done a fantastic job at upping our training and all of our training program and helping us grow our team. So we just wanted to recognize her today and give her another challenge coin for her help. Sheriff thought would be a good idea, recognize her from you. Sheriff's office.
Thank you.
You might get thirsty out there.
I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. Hopefully it's a short stint. It's 5 months as of right now, so. We'll see how it goes. Whew.
Do you know where you'll be?
So I'll be stationed stateside right now. I'm moving to Utah as of right now. And then who knows, my job is an operations NCO or non-commissioned officer, and I cover down for all of the FEMA regions. So 1 through 10. So I can be anywhere. We were in Guam last year, Portland and Minnesota because of all the protests and issues and hurricanes and tsunamis that hit. So I can go anywhere. So yeah, I do emergency preparedness for the state of Utah right now. So that's where I'm at.
Well, thank you very much for your service.
Thank you very much.
And you know, you never know when you might need search and rescue. It's something that
Yes.
citizens don't think about until they need it, and then, oh my gosh, where are they at? And we appreciate all your times and going out and doing the best you can. We really appreciate that. Thank you very much, and for your service there, good luck.
Thank you.
And wherever you end up, let us know.
Definitely. I will definitely do that. And hopefully, like I said, it's just a short stint of 5 months. And then I'll be back, right back on the team, getting us up to speed on our training or continue with the speed of our training. So thank you very much, everyone.
5 months.
All right.
Sheriff, would you like a picture?
Oh, sure. I'll put my water. Oh, I guess I dressed up nicely. I'll be ready for this.
Take this picture. Got straight. Good.
All right,
Morning.
Blake, you have to come up here. You're buddy too. Come on. Yes.
Okay.
You do. All right, 1, 2, 3.
Let me get one for the paper because they'll ask. Thank you.
Of course, thank you. Let's try. Thank you.
Hey, Glenn.
Oh, see, we can bring you one. You can take my place. Bring it on, I'm ready.
We can adjourn to 10 o'clock.
Yes.
Okay. Well, next item is planning at 10 o'clock, so we'll stand adjourned until 10 o'clock. Thank you. And everyone, we'll go ahead and start with our planning portion of commissioner business. First up, we will have the resolution removing a plat note restriction on the Gallegos property, and then consider 2 rezones. And then we'll go to the medium animal feeding operation. And during this time, anybody that would like to speak, I'd like to have you sign up, and then we'll give each person 3 minutes to speak, and then 3 minutes to the people. If there's anybody on the computer to speak on any of these 3 topics today. So I'll turn it over to the planning, and we'll start with Mr. Gallegos.
Good morning, Commissioners. The first project on your agenda today is PLN 26-021 Gallegos. This is for a resolution removing a plat note restriction for Lot 2 in the Rocky Mountain Angus mouthful. All right, so the introduction here, this piece is a 30-acre parcel. It's zoned in the A20 or A35. There is a plat note restriction for lot 2 of the Rocky Mountain Angus Minor subdivision. That plat note states, there is no domestic water available for lot 2 at the time of the final plat, and there may be no further development on lot 2 until proof of domestic water is provided to Delta County, and said restriction is released by formal action of the Board of County Commissioners. So we recently got an application from Liz, who is the applicant for this project. It's for a minor subdivision. The owner is looking to subdivide 2 lots, lot A being 23.736 acres. This lot does have an existing residence of 39355 Davis Road, along with a Crawford Mixed Water Association tap. Lot B would be a vacant residential lot totaling in 5.85 acres, with the Sandy spring attached to it. The restriction must be removed before the minor plat can be processed. So here you'll see the previous plat for the Rocky Mountain Angus Minor subdivision and where the plat note is. To the right is the proposed plat. In blue is lot A with the existing residence, and in the orange is lot B. So with that, staff finds that the applicant and owner have provided sufficient information regarding the domestic water supply for lot 2 and approve the resolution from removing the plat note restriction for lot 2 on the Rocky Mountain Angus Minor subdivision and sign the resolution. And with that, that concludes my presentation. And the applicant and owner are here.
Okay. Would the applicant and owner please come up to the table? Okay, thank you. Is the microphone on? Down there.
Now,
Is there anything you'd like to add?
Please introduce yourself too.
yes, sir.
Okay.
My name is Liz Heydrich with Needle Rock Mountain Realty. I'm here representing the Gallegos family as a family friend to process their application to divide this smaller parcel off for their son and his wife and family. This is simply for family purposes, not for resale of any kind at this time. The spring is ample. I have met and counseled with Greg Powers with the Division of Water Resources. I've also been on site with the property. The spring is well developed and already piped. I have great photograph evidence of that. And of course, as with any spring, until it is actually affixed and attached to the home, the water right is not permanently adjudicated as such. But we also have a letter from Greg Powers, and he's open to explanation to anybody that sits before me today if you need further understanding. But I believe you're probably familiar with spring rights. Once it is connected to the home, that right will be adjudicated and permanently used for the purposes of the household. Thank you for your consideration.
Anything you'd like to add?
I guess my question is the whole spring right gonna go to that 5 acres?
No,
So how is that gonna be divided up?
it doesn't have to be at this
Okay.
time. We would have to file and change what the spring right is
Okay.
with the Division of Water,
That's all I cared about.
with the state level. Yep.
We should have met about that ahead of time. We have bigger and better things to talk about.
It's a good question, but
Grandkids.
But it is my understanding and for the purposes of this meeting, that this spring right, as you can see in the filing, is an older spring right that has been continued and is still current for another year approximately. They had to affix the home to the spring right to make it a permanent spring right. That if they wanted to change the spring right to service, like, for example, an ADU or some other purposes other than what is listed in the original filing, they could go back to the state and request that change. Okay? Because it's a very large producing spring.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Is there anybody in the room that would like to comment on the Gallegos application? Okay, is there anybody on the computer who would like to address the Gallegos application?
No, sir.
Okay,
Just
We got a number.
7.
Hearing no one else, now I will move the board approve resolution number 2026 R07. A resolution removing a plat note restriction to lot 2 in the Rocky Mountain Angus Minor subdivision for parcel number 3449133010002.
I will second the motion.
Motion and second on the floor. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye, so done.
Thank you very much.
More meetings.
Planning. Go with the rezone.
Good morning, Commissioners. As is before you this morning is PLN 25-060. This is for the Pitt Family Rezone and Boundary Line Adjustment. Here for you today, we wish you to consider 2 rezones. And I can kind of give you a little background on how this started. It came in as a boundary line adjustment. And due to the boundary line adjustment, by the time the lines would be adjusted, it would have created mixed zoning. Therefore, we have to do a rezone prior. And the parcels involved are 3 parcels. Currently, they are, we have A5, A20, and Res 1, all involved in boundary line adjustment. What we're requesting is parcels 31873040020 and 31873110001 be rezoned to A5 to match the surrounding areas. If you could bring the next slide up. It's a large portion of land. It's a family property. And the purpose for this is to clean up the property lines for the family to have all their subject properties pulled together and infrastructures in place. Next slide. You can see the mixed zoning as represented here. We have the A5, A20, and Res 1. Next slide, please. The proposed boundary line adjustments would look, as you can see on the imagery, it does cut into all the different zonings for creating this boundary line adjustment. There won't be any road dedication required or anything like that. Everyone accesses up a Stevens Gulch Road. Next slide, please. The process this has already been heard by the Planning Commission. That was on April 8th, and it ended with a unanimous decision to recommend approval for the rezone as presented. Public notice has been accomplished through mailed notice, also notice on the property, and noticed and published in the High Country Shopper. At this point in time, no public comment letters or emails have been received. It is our recommendation that the board approve this PLN 25060 rezone for 2 parcels that are currently zoned A20 and one that is actually Res 1 to convert everything into a residential 5 designation. This would include amending the land use code zoning maps, rezoning subject properties from A20 and Res 1 to A5. And this does meet the criteria set forth in the land use code. And then also, if you choose to approve this, to authorize the director to draft a resolution for the final approval and the chair to sign once the resolution has been completed. The Pitt family is here today, representatives for that, if you'd like to ask them any further questions.
Yes, would the Pitt family come up to the table? Thank you. Is there anything you would like to add and identify yourself for the record, please?
I'm Susan Pitt.
I'm Ken Pitt.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for being here. Is there anything you'd like to add to this?
Not really. The only thing is the property's been in the family for 100 years. We just want to divide it into 3 sections. So each one of the kids, me and my brothers and sister know each individual piece, so our kids won't have to do it later in life.
Okay. Seems like a sensible thing to do.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I've got no questions.
None here.
Okay. Do you need a resolution number now?
We're gonna be drafting that based on what you guys decide today.
This is a rezone
Yeah.
decision.
What do you need in the way of action? You need a,
Just a motion to direct, director to draft the resolution.
I will make a motion that we, direct the director to do a rezone on the parcels in question here, the Pitts family. Parcels 15,935, 16,039 Farmers Mine Road with the correct parcel IDs and account numbers attached.
That works.
Please.
We got enough meat
Well,
there.
I'm asking.
And authorize chair to sign when the resolution.
Okay, that's what I didn't know with that part, if you're authorizing the whole thing now, or whether the intent is the resolution comes back to the board. It sounds like.
I would move that we just, do the resolution and authorize the chair to sign when it's ready.
John, you good with that?
Yeah.
One other thing, is there anyone in the room that would like to speak to the boundary line adjustment? Is there anybody on the computer that would like to address a boundary line adjustment?
Rezone.
No.
This is rezone.
Pardon me, the rezone.
No, sir.
Okay. Good.
So then are we assigning a resolution number now? If the chair is authorized to sign?
You probably should, yes.
That would be resolution
8.
BLN 26-07.
8.
Oh, wait, excuse me, yeah.
Commissioner Fuller, you think you ought to restate that motion before we go to a second?
I will give it, I will give it a try.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve the resolutions, but it's going to be PLN 5-08 concerning a rezone from A20 to A5 for the Pitt family. Parcels numbers as indicated, site address 15,935 and 16,039 Farmers Mine Road in Peyote. And authorize the chair to sign.
I'll second that one.
Motion and second on the floor. Any further discussion?
No.
If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, so done. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up will be the medium animal feeding operation. How we'll conduct that, each person that would like to speak has 3 minutes here in the room or 3 minutes on the computer. We'll have the director present the application. We'll have the applicant come up, and after the director is done, and any more additional comments or questions the board may have for them. Then the people that oppose this animal feeding operation, we have your list here. We'll call them up. If you oppose the animal feeding operation, we'll give you 3 minutes here and then 3 minutes on the computer. Then the people that are for the animal feeding operation, you can come up and state your remarks. You'll have 3 minutes in the room and then 3 minutes on the computer. And then we'll call the applicant back up to answer any questions, or if the board has more questions, to address them to the applicant. And Lindsay will keep time on the 3 minutes, and so that everyone will have a chance to speak. And Sean, turn it over to you.
PLN 2548 Hostetler is an application for your consideration of a conditional use permit for medium animal feeding operation for a chicken facility to house a flock of 1,000 laying hens. Before I begin presenting the submitted application for Mr. Hostetler's poultry operation, I'd like to address some communications that commissioners have received concerning some issues regarding our processing of the application, mainly our failure to correctly assess setbacks in the beginning and errors in our public notices. Setbacks were misunderstood or just not carefully assessed in light of the land use code in the pre-application meeting and in the initial review of the application. On June 30th at 1 p.m., the applicant had a pre-application meeting with planning staff. That same day, I had 2 other meetings and I had to reschedule one, take another, and other staff took Mr. Hostetler in the pre-application meeting. So I was not in attendance at the pre-app meeting, nor are there any notes from that meeting indicating what exactly was discussed. In the PC hearing, the applicant was asked if he had a pre-app application meeting with planning and was asked what he was told in that meeting regarding setbacks. Mr. Hostetler replied, "We were under the understanding that we need to stay 1,000 feet away from house." The code says that setbacks for medium and large animal feeding operations is 1,000 feet from residential uses. How that was discussed in the pre-application meeting or understood in that meeting, I do not know. However, the applicant's first site plan submitted with his original application showed distances to neighboring houses from the barn, the proposed barn, in its original proposed location as being over 1,000 feet from all surrounding homes. And unfortunately, in our initial review of the application for completeness and compliance, this error was not corrected. I believe everyone may have equated residential use with residence as in a house. This is because we did not carefully pay attention to the specific definition of residential use in the intensive agriculture section of the code, which refers to properties with a residential tax assessment and requires setbacks to be measured from the property line of such residential uses. This issue had to be brought to our attention on November 10th by Mr. Jardin, one of the adjacent property owners who received public notice of the development application while it was being reviewed as a limited use permit. This review process purposefully involves multiple stakeholders for this reason, for transparency, accountability, and greater circumspection. Immediately upon recognizing this error, I notified Mr. Hostetler of the correct setback requirements and also indicated that the code allows him to appeal to the commissioners for a reduction of up to 50% from residential uses. Up to that time, the application was being processed as a limited use permit with notice, which follows an administrative review process that does not include public hearings. I informed Mr. Hostetler that if he were to choose to pursue that option, that his application would be subject to the same intensive agriculture land use requirements, but that he would need to submit a new site plan showing that the barn can meet a 50% reduction to setbacks. And he would need to go through the conditional use process that required a neighborhood meeting and a planning commission hearing to come before the commissioners for a decision on the reduction to setbacks and on the application as a whole. Mr. Hostetler obviously had to take some time to think about this situation to determine whether or not that requirement could be met and whether to continue. Meanwhile, I also informed Mr. Jardin of where the application stood, during which time he read the section of the code pertaining to the potential to seek an allowed reduction to setbacks for intensive agriculture, which led him to contend that the setbacks for this application could only be reduced up to 25%. I will reserve an explanation of that for the part of the review, that part of the review of the application, but I'll just note here that I did not agree with that interpretation of that part of the code, but I could see where someone could contend for that argument enough to issue a notice to Mr. Hostetler, advising him that there could be a dispute over potential ambiguity in the section of the code, and that any request to setback reductions for intensive agriculture will be subject to the commissioner's interpretation of this section of the code, in addition to other considerations as stated in the land use code. Mr. Hostetler eventually decided 2.5 months later to continue to pursue a permit for his poultry operation and go through the conditional use permit process. February 9th, he submitted a new site plan to reflect a request for setback reductions of 500 feet and provided some updated management plans for requesting the setback reduction. At that point, the processing of the application switched from a limited use permit process to a conditional use permit process. New additional review steps of having a neighborhood meeting and going to the planning commission before coming to the commission. The application requirements remained the same, specific use standards for intensive agriculture, so there was no need for a new application form. This was just a continuation of the same application, but now going through the planning commission and the board of county commissioners for a decision rather than an administrative decision. From February 9th to February 16th, the completeness review was performed. On February 17th, a referral notice was sent to referral agencies with the updated site plan and management plans. At this time, a correction was also made to reflect that the 20,000 layer facility is classified as a medium animal feeding operation rather than a large animal feeding operation. This is according to the animal units table in chapter 14 of the land use code. The setbacks for a medium and large animal feeding operation are identical, except for in the case of public schools, where they're doubled for large animal feeding operations, and there's no public schools in question here on the subject property. In addition to this setback situation, this application, as if it were not complicated or contentious enough with the whole oversight of the setbacks, we have had particular difficulty in issuing accurate public notices for this application. We had a new planning tech assigned to preparing and issuing notices, and the notices had several errors due to copying previous notices and not correcting errors in those previous notices, or not correctly changing the time, or in one case, failing to send notice to the paper. I've provided the commissioners with a list of the various public notices that were sent, the dates they were sent or published in the paper, a description of the errors in them, and what was done to correct those errors. According to Chapter 7, Section 5G of the Land Use Code, that pertains to errors and notices, the standard for compliance with this shall be substantial compliance. If the director determines that there has been substantial compliance with the requirements, despite any particular technical error, then the decision or recommendation reached at the notice of hearing shall be final. If the director determines that there has not been substantial compliance with the requirements of this due to an error, then the decision or recommendation reached at the notice hearing shall be vacated, or the hearing on the item canceled and a new hearing scheduled. I did reschedule the planning commission hearing from March 25th to April 8th because of errors in the meeting time on the mailed notice and in the published paper notice. Then the notice regarding the change of the hearing date to April 8th was mailed to adjacent property owners, but was not republished in the paper as instructed, so I had to reschedule for April 15th. Then the PC public notice was copied for this hearing, for the BOCC public notice, for the paper, and for the notice mailed to the adjacent property owners. The notice in the paper published on April 15th is correct. However, the time in the mailed notice was not correct. The day of the week and the date were correct, but it had the time of 5:30 p.m. instead of 10 a.m. So on April 23rd, a notice with the corrected time was mailed to adjacent property owners, and they were also emailed the corrected time. As the notice in the paper was correct, and the day and date were correct in the mailed notice, and the corrected time was communicated to the adjacent property owners sufficiently in advance of the hearing by a new postal letter and by email, I determined that the notice met substantial compliance to keep this May 5th hearing date. So, PLN 2548, Hostetler. Is an application by Mr. Greg. Do you have any questions about any of that we covered?
I don't.
Okay. PLN 2548 Hostetler is an application by Mr. Hostetler for a conditional use permit for a poultry egg laying facility with 20,000 hens, which is a medium animal feeding operation based on the number of animal units. Normally, a medium animal feeding operation is processed as a limited use permit with notice per the land use code. It's being processed as a conditional use permit due to its need to reductions of intensive agriculture setbacks. Okay, the subject property is located at 28-177 North Road, Hotchkiss, approximately 5.5 miles southeast of Cedar Ridge and approximately 6 miles to the right there, yeah, to the northwest of Hotchkiss. The property is approximately 121 acres in size with one residence and a couple of large storage buildings. It's located in the A35 zoning district. The proposed project is a family operated poultry egg laying facility, again with 20,000 layers, which is equated to 400 animal units, which is considered a medium animal feeding operation. The proposed barn will be 50 feet by 500 feet with a 50-foot perimeter fenced area on the northeast and south sides of the barn. Flock turnover and barn cleaning will occur approximately every 14 to 16 months. Upper Surface Creek Domestic Water Users Association permits the existing tap to be used to service the proposed poultry egg laying operation. Various neighbors in the in public comments and in the Planning Commission hearing have expressed concerns over the water scarcity on Redlands Mesa and with the Upper Surface Creek Water Users Association, and have expressed doubts as to whether or not the association has adequately assessed the water demands of this facility. However, the association provided written validation that they can and will serve the facility with their existing water rights. Yesterday, I received another letter from the association further affirming this position, and the commissioners have been provided a copy of that letter. It says, this letter is to inform you that Upper Surface Creek Domestic Water Users Association can serve the above property as a medium animal feeding operation, poultry, and it already has a tap. According to our attorney and state engineer, there is no issue with our water rights enabling us to serve this property. The proposed facility will also require an approved septic engineered septic design and permit. Next. A medium animal feeding operation, again in 835 zoning district, usually is a limited use permit with notice. And is subject to the use specific standards for intensive agriculture in Chapter 2, Section 2A of the Land Use Code. According to this section of code, the definition of residential uses established in this section, setbacks are to be measured from the property line of any property that is zoned A5, A2.5, Res 1, or any property that has a residential tax assessment indicating residential use of property. So properties not included under the definition of residential uses would be, for example, properties that are zoned A35, A20, or residential, or rural, industrial, commercial, and do not have a residence on them. Next slide. All of the properties in blue or green bordering the subject parcel are either in A35 or A20 zoning district and have a residential tax assessment. They meet the residential use definition. Those in orange do not have a residential tax assessment. They do not meet the residential use definition. They are not in the A5, A2.5, or Res 1 zoning district, and they do not have a residential tax assessment. According to Table 2D, the facility would need to be set back 1,000 feet from the property lines of the parcels in blue and green in the previous slide, which fall under the definition of residential uses. It would only need to be set back 100 feet from parcels in orange that don't fall under the definition of residential use. Due to the configuration of the parcel, the proposed poultry facility cannot be situated within the 121 acre parcel and meet the 1,000-foot setbacks from the blue or green properties. Therefore, the applicant is going through this conditional use permit process to request that setback reduction. Subsection 11 of the intensive agricultural use standards states that setbacks for intensive agriculture uses shall only be modified through a conditional use review process in accordance with the following limitations. These are the two limitations on the slide. Setbacks to residential uses may be reduced up to 50%, and setbacks to property lines may be reduced up to 25%. Given that the definition for residential uses established earlier in the section also measures setbacks from the property lines of properties that meet the definition, some believe that there is ambiguity in determining which reduction would be permissible. The applicant and I believe this section of code allows for the potential of a 50% reduction to setbacks by the commissioners for this subject property in its context. The remaining portion of that subsection pertaining to setbacks states that setback reductions may only be granted by the Board of County Commissioners, and that they will consider the concentration of intensive agriculture facilities in the vicinity in order to evaluate the cumulative of such uses on the land uses from which space is required. So whether a 50% or 25% reduction would apply in this case is a matter subject to commissioner's interpretation of the section of code. I've included in my my staff report my interpretation of this section of the code on pages 6 and 7. I think it is clear. The definition of residential use is established in the beginning of the section on intensive agriculture. The adjacent properties in the slide above in blue and green fall under that definition. The setback from these properties, according to Part A of Table 2D, is 1,000 feet for a medium animal feeding operation. The residential use setback is distinguished from Part B of Table 2D, which has the phrase "from all property lines." That may be referring to non-residential use properties like the ones in orange, or that may be referring to structures that are not a part of the intensive agriculture operation on the subject property. Whatever it may mean, it does not refer to the setbacks from residential use properties because that is already covered in Part A of Table 2D. I believe this makes the language of the allowed setback reductions clear. Setbacks to residential uses may be reduced by up to 50%. Again, however, this is up to the commissioner's interpretation. If the commissioners were to also conclude that a 50% reduction is allowable, then the decision would remain whether to grant the reduction. The condition for determining that is that the commissioners will consider the concentration of intensive agriculture facilities in the vicinity in order to evaluate the cumulative impacts of such uses on the land uses from which spacing is required. There is one other intensive agriculture facility within a 5-mile radius of the subject property, and that is approximately 1.2 miles to the southwest. Ms. Havens, a neighbor and a public commenter, has provided a comment contending this single observation of the proximity of the nearest medium animal feeding operation, a nearly identical poultry barn to the one being proposed, is insufficient, and that the two facilities are operationally connected because the owner of the facility to the south may accept Mr. Hostetler's manure to apply as fertilizer to his 750 acres. Because of this, she believes that a cumulative impact analysis is needed in order to evaluate what these two co-located poultry operations over a mile apart mean for the air quality, watershed, road use, and residential character of surrounding community. If the commissioners feel the same, of course, you may request that such an analysis be made. But I would request that if you do make that request, to please specify who's qualified to conduct and provide a regulatory evaluation of such an analysis. Next slide. Believing the definition of residential uses established at the beginning of this section for intensive agriculture applies to this, to the setback reductions. A 50% reduction from residential uses to the 1,000-foot setbacks is being sought by the applicant. Setback distances, so the parcel boundaries are shown in red, and the area in yellow is the area that is set back 500 feet from the parcel's boundaries. The poultry barn and its fenced apron and the manure stockpile area are shown within that 500-foot setback area on the site plan. In addition, radius lines in black, if you can kind of see those arcs that are going through the property, are showing 1,000-foot setback radius approximately from the nearest residential structures. Setback distances from the two wells are also shown and exceed the 150-foot requirement. As the decision to grant setback reductions ultimately rests with the commissioners, and that decision would come before the would come after the planning commission hearing. At the planning commission hearing, I had recommended that the planning commission consider making two separate recommendations to the commissioners. One, in the case that a reduction were granted, what would they recommend on the basis of all the other standards for intensive agriculture? And the other would be to provide a separate setback reduction recommendation. This would allow the planning commission to provide their assessment of the proposed plans and provide input on proposed conditions in case it were permitted by the commissioners. In my presentation at the planning commission hearing, I reserved a review of proposed conditions to the end so that the planning commission could consider them after having heard the applicant's comments and all the public comments. However, the planning commission recommended denial of the application as presented because with a 500-foot setback, the member who had made the motion did not think that the planning commission could implement any conditions that would not have any adverse impact on the neighboring properties. So that motion passed with 3 yeses, 2 nos, and 2 abstains, and therefore the planning commission did not consider or discuss any of the proposed conditions. Excellent. So regarding the standards for intensive agriculture, the applicant has submitted an odor management plan, which describes several integrated strategies to minimize the generation and release of odors, which include the use of a computerized system for monitoring the air inside the barn and its ventilation system, procedures for the proper handling, storage, and land application of litter, maintenance of aerobic conditions to suppress anaerobic bacteria responsible for undesirable odors, feed control strategies to reduce nitrogen excretion, resulting in lower ammonia emissions and improved litter quality, and daily monitoring and physical inspection and corrective activities as needed. Next slide. I'm going to make reference to conditions that I'm recommending for the board's consideration as we go through each one of these. Condition 1.3 requires adherence to the applicant's odor management plan and manure and litter management plan. The applicant's manure and litter management plan outlines procedures for the collection, storage, handling, and land application of manure and litter. The plan states that the manure will be temporarily stockpiled and covered with tarps to prevent runoff, nutrient loss, and odor issues. The applicant's site plan, as you had seen in earlier slides, shows an area designated for tarped temporary litter manure stockpiling during the temporary periods between each flock cycle until it is all applied to the owner's land or neighboring farms and ranches. Water quality. With regard to water quality, the applicant has submitted a stormwater management plan, which proposes to ensure that water is diverted away from the manure in operational areas, to control runoff water on site through slope design and a retention pond, to implement contingency planning to control roof runoff, and use adaptive management through additional grading, vegetation stabilization, graveling, or expansion of the holding pond. The Environmental Agriculture Program of CDPHE considers the proposed 20,000 hen laying operation to be a small animal feeding operation by their definitions. And as a result, they affirmed that the proposed facility is not required to register or obtain a permit under state and federal regulations. But they do have to utilize applicable best management practices according to Regulation 3081, which prescribes activities, procedures, or practices necessary for the reduction of impacts on surface or groundwater. Regarding conditions pertaining to water quality, condition number 2 requires a professionally engineered drainage report that demonstrates compliance with Chapter 4, Section 7B of the Land Use Code. This would entail stormwater management, grading, erosion, and sediment control. This report would also account for any potential stormwater permit that may be required if the development will disturb over an acre of land. Condition number 12 also requires a certified as-built survey be provided to confirm that the facility envelope meets all setback and engineered drainage report requirements. And condition number 13 requires a written standard operating procedure for the storage, transportation, and land application of manure and litter to be provided and approved by the planning director to ensure the protection of state waters. Regarding dust mitigation, the applicant has provided a dust management plan that proposes methods to reduce, prevent, and mitigate dust from the driveway access by use of dust mitigation products like mag chloride or occasional irrigation water. The exterior barn area to minimize dust through the use of vegetation or gravel, and in the interior barn area through periodic cleaning, humidity control, and management of litter. Air pollution from dust from inside the barn is a particular point that's made in a lot of public comments. It was in the public hearing for the Planning Commission. So since the PC hearing, Mr. Hostetler added another page to his site plan showing a little more detail of the barn layout, which shows the fans on the east of the building and some indication of a vegetative buffer in line with the fans about 50-foot setback from the barn. Mr. Hostetler also provided a second page to his dust management plan that described 3 ways that he plans to reduce the amount of dust and odors inside the building. 1, through cleaning inside regularly. 2, managing the relative humidity in the building using the cooling foggers. And 3, the barn will have a concrete floor to reduce dust and make clean out easier. Thirdly, he provided some elevation readings of a proposed barn location that show a drop in terrain from, keep it next slide. So that's the top there is the kind of barn view. The bottom there are some elevation readings that were taken in by transit out on site. That show a drop in the terrain going from east to west, though not explained necessarily with the side elevation drawing of the proposed building in the topography. His plan is to dig out the eastern area so that the barn would be several feet below ground level on that end where the fans are located. Next. Regarding conditions pertaining to dust mitigation, condition 1.5 requires adherence to the applicant's dust mitigation plan. Condition 10 requires the poultry barn to have a cement floor to reduce atmospheric pollutants emitted from the barn ventilation system. Nothing necessarily beyond the barn view provided in the site plan shows the vegetative buffers to intercept air particles blown out of the barn. If that is desired for mitigation of dust, the commissioners may want to consider adding a condition requiring a landscape plan for the vegetative buffer showing species, spacings, overall dimensions, and irrigation systems and sustained perhaps. Next. Regarding noise mitigation, there's just a condition 1.6 that requires adherence to the applicant's noise mitigation plan, and that the operation not exceed noise thresholds set by the state statute. Pest mitigation. Applicant submitted a pest management plan. It outlines an integrated rodent control program and a fly control program that includes sanitation, cleaning spilled feed, proper waste disposal, mowing, tight sealing of feed storage, monitoring pests through bait and trap record keeping, and preventing breeding conditions, prevent rodent access. So condition 1.7 requires adherence to the applicant's pest management plan. With regard to the solid waste management, applicant submitted solid waste management plan, outlines procedures for handling mortalities, broken eggs, packaging waste, and spent hens. With regard to mortalities, there are two handling methods proposed. One is to freeze and take the mortalities to the composting facility. The other is by incineration. An equipment model sheet for an incinerator was provided as an exhibit for the incineration method in the event that sending them to, the composting facility is not chosen as the option. That plan also stated that they would comply with all general waste handling and air quality regulations. Regulation 1 of CDPHE for emission control does state that no owner or operator of an incinerator shall operate any incinerator without a permit from the division. So there is a condition about that requirement if you choose to use an incinerator. Regarding spent hens, the preferred method of handling the spent hens is to sell them, if that's possible. But in the case where there is no buyer available, the applicant has submitted a letter from a composting facility, a letter of support affirming that they could take the spent hens at the composting facility. And they also provided a euthanasia policy from the American Humane Animal Welfare Standards. So again, regarding conditions for solid waste management, condition 1.8 requires adherence to the approved solid waste plan. And then condition 8 requires any use of an incinerator to incinerate mortalities in the farm. That it will require a permit from CDPHE. Also, there's condition 7 that states on-site burial of spent hens will require approval from Delta County Environmental Health if that were ever to be approached as an option. Lastly, truck routing. Traffic to the facility will consist of 2 semi-truck trailers per week, 1 to deliver feed to the facility and 1 to haul eggs from the facility. Removal and delivery of flocks will consist of 2 to 3 trucks per event, which is expected to happen approximately every 14 months. CDOT reviewed the application and considered the proposed development's impacts to the highway to be minimal. The proposed primary route is Highway 92 Payne Siding North Road to the property. Proposed alternate route is Highway 92 3100 Road, North Road, and then to the property. North Road, Payne Siding Road, and 3100 Road are all minor arterial roads, and there's no restrictions on semi-tractor trailers that exist on these roads. Regarding conditions that are recommended for truck routing, condition 11 requires proof from a qualified engineer that a semi-tractor trailer can safely use the entire length of Payne Siding Road without crossing into oncoming traffic lane, or Payne Siding Road should not be used as a truck route. Condition number 3 requires that the existing access from North Road be improved to meet commercial access standards per the Delta County Roadway Design and Construction Standards. And condition 4 requires the poultry facility to obtain an address from County GIS. So the next slides are all the draft conditions. Would you like to go through all those, or would you like to wait to the end to go through all those? I've also provided you a copy of those draft conditions so that you could make any amendments to them or eliminate or add to.
I'd like to hear from public right now.
Okay. We'll wait on those. The applicant, Mr. Hostetler, is there anything that you want to add to what he said? And at the end of the public comment, you'll have a chance to add any more information.
Good morning. My name is Greg Hostetler. I own 160 acres on Redlands Mesa, where I've lived with my family for almost 15 years. This place has been home to us for a long time, and we're grateful to be able to farm here in Delta County. I'd like to give you a straightforward picture of the poultry farm we're planning. The operation would be a 20,000 bird barn. The proposed building site is on a 120 acre parcel. I live on the adjoining property east of the site, which is 40 acres. I'm not planning this alone. I've got two local men advising me, Richard Blosser here and Noah Knox. They both run barns of their own and have been doing it for years and will be taking questions as well as myself. My wife and I have worked in my father-in-law's chicken barn as well, and our son Forrest and his wife Roxanne, who live about 200 yards from the proposed site, have spent years caring for barns just like this. This is the kind of work our family knows, and we take it seriously. First, I want to make sure everyone knows I have a letter from the Upper Surface Creek Water Users Association saying they can and will supply the water we need. For perspective, the whole flock uses about the same amount of water as roughly 50 head of cattle. That's a number folks around here can picture. Air quality matters to us. We plan to plant several rows of trees along the barn, and the area of the ventilation fans is a natural windbreak tall enough to match the height of the fans. Tree windbreaks have been shown to cut ammonia dust by more than half over several years. Well-designed vegetative shelter belts have been recommended by the USDA as one of the best air quality management practices. I have already reached out to LaRue Creek Nursery about getting the trees. I also have air quality tests, results from a barn that's already up and running. And I'm happy to share those with anyone who wants to look them over. To make sure everything stays on track, we're prepared to put in air monitors, both upwind and downwind of the site. That way we can see real numbers, not guesses. The barn will be built with a full concrete floor, and that makes a big difference. Concrete keeps the dust way down and helps keep the air cleaner both inside the barn and around it. We chose that design on purpose because it's the right way to do it. A common concern is the potential health impact of those in the community. An inspector will visit the barn on a monthly basis to verify that we are in compliance with all the FDA, humane and management SOPs and that have been beneficial in maintaining a successful operation with minimal impacts. There are no known instances of salmonella being transmitted through the air from poultry to humans. We value the nation's efforts to strengthen food safety and are committed to maintaining an environment that safeguards our family's health and the well-being of those around us. As for avian flu, this type of operation has been proven to be lower risk. The birds are vaccinated and we follow strict biosecurity measures. Feed and water consumption are checked every single day, so if anything looks off, we catch it right away. If a bird ever does show signs of illness, we quarantine and treat immediately. That's standard practice. We have a signed letter from Delta Compost confirming their ability and interest in taking our spent hens when the time comes if we choose to not sell them on the live market. That way, the end of each flock is handled properly and by folks who are set up to do it right. On the manure side of things, I want to be clear how that works. Chicken manure isn't a waste problem around here. It's actually in demand. Local farmers and gardeners use it for compost and soil building, so it's a useful product instead of something that sits around. The barn will be emptied and cleaned approximately every 14 months, and the manure will be used or hauled off and dealt with in a timely manner. I also want to point out that this kind of operation isn't new around here with over 20 barns on the western slope. Dr. David Kuntz has been running a similar barn since 2015. His barn is about 1.2 miles from where we're planning to build, and over the last 10 years, it's shown itself to be a good fit for the community. It's been managed responsibly. It hasn't caused trouble for the neighbors, and most folks hardly notice it's there. His barn is a real-life example of how this exact type of operation can work smoothly and respectfully on Redlands Mesa.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll call on people that are opposed to the animal feeding operation in the room. Then we'll go to the people that are opposed on the computer. Then we'll come back to the room for the people that are for the animal feeding operation, and then we'll go to the computer. And then we'll come back to the applicant for if there's anything else that need to be added. First up is Charles Churick. Are you for or against? Do you want to speak? No. Okay. And then Lindsay will have the 3-minute time limit. No. Paul and Pat Frazier, are you for or against?
Against.
Okay, you want to go ahead and address?
I'll let my wife speak for me.
Okay.
Graciously.
State your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Pat Frazier. I live at 29581 Redlands Mesa Road for the past 22 years. I'm a biodynamic organic farmer on Redlands Mesa for the last 20 years. Prior to that, I was a pediatric nurse practitioner and practiced for 35 years. I have deep concerns about health, but not necessarily in the same way that everybody else has been very eloquent in professing. I have more concerns about soil health on a long-term basis for all of our children, grandchildren, and our agricultural community. I do believe that the proposed facility is not necessarily as adept at providing soil health as the prior use of that land was. The prior use of that land was for quite some time, over 20 years at least, because they were there before me, was managed by a retired farmer who chose to introduce dryland wheat. It was a very appropriate use for the land. It used water appropriately on the land. And in the end, when the farmer was retiring and decided to sell all of his seeding equipment and seed cleaning equipment, it was quite an event because he was in a quite educational manner about what he had done with his land. It was very helpful to the community and was a very appropriate use of the land. The other half of that equation was his wife, and she was very good at raising native plants on that land. In fact, the garden is probably still there and contains very valuable seeds and plant material to reconstitute our native lands. I do feel that there could be a better use for this land that's more along the lines of its traditional use for the last 3 to 4 decades. Furthermore, I do feel like soil health on Redlands Mesa is a vital concern of most of our neighbors. Most of our neighbors provide opportunities for rotational grazing, for extremely well irrigated and well managed hay fields. One of our neighbors has raised buffalo and elk on their land and has provided education about pasture health and pasture management for grazing animals. Most of us on Redlands Mesa do have some sort of small agricultural operation there, wherein we would be concerned about drift of any kind. I don't think that's a huge concern given the modifications that Mr. Hostetler has provided, but those are my main concerns about soil health. I feel that we should not provide a setback and we should not approve this for this use of the land. Thank you.
Thank you. Pat Knox, are you for or against? Or Noah Knox? For. Okay, we'll wait. Richard Blosser? 4, okay. Dave Whittlesey?
4.
Okay, thank you. David Koontz? 4. Okay. Travis Narden?
Opposed?
Okay, go ahead and come up, sir. You'd state your name and address for the record, and you've got 3 minutes, sir.
Travis Jordan, 28612 Redlands Mesa Road.
Thank you.
My attorney emailed the commissioners a letter recently with 2 water issues that we are certain will prevent our water association from providing the tap water to the applicants for their egg laying operation. Here's a brief summary of the issues. The first is the Leon Lake Reservoir Trans-Basin Diversion from Water Division 5 to Water Division 4 through the Leon Tunnel. Our water association owns shares of Leon Lake. 2,000 acre-feet of Leon Lake has been decreed as municipal. The association can use that decreed municipal water for its own decreed purposes, which are domestic, stock, and irrigation. The association cannot use the water for municipal or commercial purposes unless it is approved by the Division 4 Water Court for a change of use decree to municipal or commercial. The second issue is that the Water Association has said that they can use stock water to supply the applicant with the tap water they need. They can't. Older stock water decrees issued before 1969 were issued under the rule that the water would be used for grazing animals. However, as other uses for water evolved, the 1969 Water Right Determination and Administration Act was enacted. And water court decrees since have required significantly more specificity regarding actual beneficial use than decrees issued before the act. In order to provide stock water to the applicant's commercial operation, the association must apply to the water court and receive approval for a revised stock commercial decree under the act to avoid injury to other water users on the stream. Now to setback reductions. The LUC states that the purposes of this code are to promote health, safety, and general welfare of the residents of Delta County. Please consider the science and not the politics of a safe setback distance. The minimum recommended distance by the NIH is 1/2 mile. Now, the photos of the discharge that I included in previous letters of these facilities that I submitted were in fact photoshopped, but by Mother Nature. The naked eye sees particles 40 microns and larger when backlit with the setting sun, particles down to 2.5 microns and smaller become visible, and they are the most harmful and travel the greatest distances. These discharge facilities are dangerous to neighbors when there is insufficient setback, period. Please deny this application.
Thank you, sir. William Spiker, 4 or against?
Opposed?
Okay, go ahead and come on up, sir.
It's hooked on me, I think. Thank you.
Big feet.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name's William Spiker. I live at 28315 North Road in Hotchkiss on Redlands Mesa, just south of the proposed facility. My north boundary line shares with Hostetler's. I've been at that residence since 1998. My in-laws have been up on Redlands Mesa at that minor subdivision since 1977. So we've been up there a while, and we've enjoyed all the local ranchers and farmers up there. Has never been an issue. I strongly oppose the construction and operation of this large-scale commercial poultry egg laying facility. The facility poses a significant, what I see as a health and safety risk, not to mention depreciation in my property value. I know that that's hard to nail down right now because it's not there, but it's dang sure not going to make my property value go up in the years to come. And that goes to my son when he inherits the place, then of course that's gonna financially hinder him. Commissioners, planning committee, please read there's at least 100+ letters, emails submitted by my neighbors, friends, family, citizens of Redlands Mesa, and even Delta County. Please consider all those. There's a lot of cons outlined there. A lot of gets into the real technical aspects of everything. And make the decision accordingly. So in conclusion, the Redlands Mesa majority in my mind and what I'm reading says no, including myself, reflected by all these documents and emails that have been submitted. Please restore my faith also in the commissioners and the planning committee. Make sure that the majority, 2/3, says no to this large-scale laying facility. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Amy Spiker, do you wish to speak?
I'm opposed, but no, I don't.
Okay. Harold Landers or Sanders?
Opposed, but I don't want to speak.
Okay. Oh, no. TK?
In favor, I'll wait.
Okay. Pamela Brady? No, you don't want to talk? Okay.
Opposed.
Okay. Justine Zaffron?
Opposed?
You
Yes,
want-
I would like to speak.
Okay.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
My name is Justine Zaffron. I'm speaking on behalf of myself and my husband, Richard Cunningham, at 26540 Redlands Mesa Road. I'll start with the comments that I would like to offer for myself. I don't believe this proposed MAFO poses no health risk to this community. For 3 years, I worked directly across from Edwin Hostetler's facility on Pal Mesa as a vet assistant for Dr. Susan Raymond. I have personally cleaned the daily dust accumulation off every surface of that clinic. I have personally observed the massive dust plumes resulting from manure spreading. And I have watched Dr. Raymond succumb to an aggressive autoimmune disorder and the pain and chronic steroid use therein. The Pal Mesa facility used many of the same justifications for their current location, including the claim of no health risks. Yet, we have no control data for that current location, nor do we have current air, soil, or water samples post-operation for comparison for compliance. This is a failing on the part of Delta County to confirm these no health risk claims at the expense of neighboring farms and families, and now it's happening again. A corrupt view of the right to farm legislation was used to justify the Pal Mesa facility. The right to farm was written to protect established farms and residents from incursions and conflicts that would eventually force them out. It was not written to act as a blank check for new developers to act with impunity, regardless of impact upon the established community. The Delta County Land Use Code is also supposed to protect Delta County citizens from harm. Mitigations remain an unproven protection from health risks inherent in such commercial farming operations. On behalf of the vast majority of this Redlands Mesa community, please reject this proposal. On behalf of my husband, Richard, he submits, with due respect to the county commissioners and the applicants of the poultry project, I demand that this proposal be rejected. In fact, this proposal should have been rejected according to the Land Use Code when it was first reviewed in the planning stages. But someone made a serious mistake. Apparently, someone assured the applicant the parcel and location of their project complied with the setback code without verifying this. It did not. Based upon the county's assurances, the applicant purchased the parcel, over $1 million, which compounded the county's predicament. Ethically, the county should have admitted their mistake and made retribution to the applicant. Their assumption was false pretense, and the project, which could not comply with our land use code, would have been canceled, full stop. Instead, the county staged a cover-up, and the decision maker who should be revealed is being protected, and as the county and the land use code is being trampled upon, first time that it's been put to test, to mitigate and dodge the potential liabilities of a reckless decision made by county officials. It is a crime to force the people of Delta County to accept compromises and unsavory mitigations to force this project upon our community. Thank you, sir. Please don't betray us again and uphold the land use codes. Thank you.
Liz Hydra, did you want to speak to this?
I do, but I'm in favor.
Okay. Naomi Gray, for or against?
Against.
Okay.
My name is Naomi Gray. I've lived at 29587 Redlands Mesa Road for almost 54 years, and I'm very concerned about adding this operation to my neighborhood. The applicant is asking for a 50% setback reduction. He has provided no clear rationale or any compelling evidence to support this request. He just wants to put a chicken facility on land he recently purchased and can't do so without a setback modification. In most jurisdictions, modifications of this magnitude would require a variance. Variances have clear criteria for approval. Modifications do not. Decisions made without criteria for guidance can only be arbitrary by nature. I disagree with Mr. Gardner's interpretation, and I question whether a 50% setback modification can be allowed in this use. The code states, 1, setbacks to residential uses may be reduced by up to 50%, and 2, setbacks to property lines may be reduced by up to 25%. This code section is ambiguous, but the code provides clear direction for resolving such ambiguity. It states, quote, whenever any provision of this code or any provision of any other law, rule, contract, resolution, ordinance, or regulation of the county, state, or federal government contains certain standards covering the same subject matter, the interpretation that gives effect to all of the applicable laws controls. Generally, that means that the more restrictive requirements or higher standards control the decision, unquote. Applying that rule, the 25% limitation should control, not the 50% being requested. Therefore, the applicant's request is not only unsupported, it shouldn't even be eligible for consideration. A majority of neighbors, many of whom have lived here for more than 40 years, are in opposition. They should not be ignored in favor of the applicant's request. There are numerous reasonable agricultural uses available for the property without intensive agriculture. The neighbors are asking for the county to adhere to the setback restrictions and not grant a modification, and thereby protect their peaceful enjoyment of their homes. Please listen to their concerns and consider them carefully. In closing, according to the Delta County LUC, quote, the right to develop and improve private property does not include the right to physically damage or adversely impact neighboring properties, water resources, or the environment, even if that means that the property owner cannot utilize property for its perceived highest and best use, unquote. It is also the stated purpose of that code to, quote, promote the health, safety, and general welfare of the residents of Delta County, and to protect the character of existing rural communities and neighborhoods in Delta County, unquote. Denial of this request will support all of these purposes. Please uphold the Planning Commission's recommendation and deny this request. Thank you.
Corrine Holder, for or against?
Yes.
Okay.
I sat in a similar chair in 2011 when another chicken facility was proposed just across the creek from me. My name is Corinne Holder. I live at 13501 2900 Road. My property is a quarter of a mile from the property that the Hostettlers have. They've applied for this conditional use permit in a place that it has no value. I bought my property with my husband in 1978 when it was hayfields and elm trees. And since that time, I have managed those elm trees and I have practiced water conservation and conservation of the land and my 30 acres. I've planted numerous trees. And now I have a water system that will have swells and berms that will keep all the irrigation water and rainwater that comes to my farm there, which is what we need to do here in Western Colorado. We don't have a lot of water and it's becoming less. And in speaking about my family, I now have divided 2 lots off to my sons. One of my sons is a firefighter. His wife is a nurse at the hospital. She works also for Hope West. I'm a retired special ed teacher. I retired in 2012. We are a family, just a normal family, that want to live in a country setting and take care of our grandchildren so that they have a place. We have chickens, and right now we're grazing sheep. These are just normal things. And I feel like this industrial operation, so close to us and so close to so many other residential and agricultural residential people, is just not appropriate. It's like a square peg in a round hole. It just doesn't fit. And our county land code, which we developed here all together, it really doesn't suggest that this is a place we should have that kind of facility. And I really recommend that you deny this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Phil from North Road, I'll destroy the last name, Eggy. E.G. Are you for or against, sir?
Well, I'm gonna say I'm against and I'll speak.
Okay.
Most of what I have to say I've already said, so I'll try to be somewhat quick.
And
Phil
you-
Egidi, E-G-I-D-I, just like the 3 letters, E-G-D. I'm KVNF, I'm Phil Fettuccini, if that makes it any easier for you. I live on one of the adjoining properties. We've been there 39 years on that property. So I was there actually before Reg and Diane even bought it and watched them manage that land. It was fun watching him try to dry land farm it, and he did. He's a really interesting guy. Again, I think we've talked about a lot of these concerns before. And a lot of my concerns lie on this side of the room as much as they do that side of the room. With all this stuff we saw through the planning process and the lack of rigor that was done here. The stuff that was sent to us, those weren't plans. To put them in today's jargons, they have concepts of a plan. It's getting better. Thank you for providing some prints finally and maybe some elevations, but I've done environmental remediation, environmental work for 40 years. I'm retired from the United States Environmental Protection Agency. I did over a dozen years with CDPHE in the Hazardous Waste Management Materials Division. I did about a dozen years with Oak Ridge National Laboratory, starting with uranium mill tailings back in the early 80s. I've pushed a lot of dirt. I've made a lot of plans. I've reviewed a lot of plans. And what's been lacking in the plans are criteria. How do you gauge them? They're well intended. Now, I don't know if the business plan is part of this or not, it's maybe none of our business. But I hope there's contingencies, because right now we have no water and diesel's going to $6 a gallon. You know, hoping that one of the hens poops golden eggs is not really a business plan, and I don't know what their margins are, but I'm concerned that it's gonna be viable if they comply with all these things that are gonna be necessary. I'm asthmatic. I agree with the, the PM 2.5 kind of stuff, especially when you have particles in the air that have cooties. We don't, they come in all ways, shapes, or forms. So I'm worried about the discharge from the fans. And also on an earlier meeting, they did commit to the UBC, because you don't have a building code yet. But they did commit that they would follow the UBC, because we didn't want them to do something up there in Redlands that's not gonna survive that weather up there. Oh, and the tarps managing the poop on Redlands Mesa, the wind just doesn't stop blowing up there. You need a structure rather than just tarping it, because they just get ripped apart. They don't last up there. The wind blows like crazy on Redlands. Okay, I'm glad to see that there's more engineering finally coming along here, but I didn't see where there was enough information you guys to make a decision, or the planning department. They didn't have elevations, contours, all that good geotechnical stuff. You're gonna be building a pond, they have proctors, what's the porosity? I just dropped $25,000 on a new septic in Leachfield, and I'm the next door neighbor. They're gonna have to go through all that too, I'm assuming. Okay, so I'm just running it up. Biohazards, yes. It's essentially a factory. I can't read my own typing. Essentially a factory producing 20,000 widgets a day. And I'm still confused as why these facilities are not considered in the land use plan. I remember when Foster Farms first came in, they're part of this. How did that not get included in your plans? I don't know. Because obviously it's, factory farming is a thing here, and we should know what the regulations are for that. Hey, thank you.
Thank you. Dave Lundberg, for or against?
Opposed?
Okay. Would you like to speak?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Well, I get to sit down. Dave Lundberg, 13786, 2800 Road. Thanks for taking my comments. I'm not sure that I can add anything you haven't already heard or read, but I would like to say a few things. The right to farm status in Delta County makes multiple references to existing farms and ranch lands. Mr. Hostetler's chicken facility obviously is not existing. What is existing are the 9 residentially zoned and taxed properties surrounding Mr. Hostetler's property on 3 sides. And every one of those property owners is not in favor of his proposed chicken facility. Under the right to farm statute, we offer protection to agricultural lands from urban sprawl and residential ramifications, if you will. Should we not offer that same protection to existing residentially zoned properties that carry the ramifications and impacts of intense commercial agriculture? Would that not be a fair solution to this issue? After reading all the comments in the public comment section of the commissioner's packet, I counted 49 different property owners that sent comments to the planning director, and 21 of those that sent more than one comment. Out of those letters, not one was voicing approval of this chicken facility. All the comments generated were against this proposal. There was one letter that said they weren't opposed to it, but there was not one comment saying that they were in favor of it. That's 98% of the comments submitted being opposed to this facility. I would say that that's not only a majority of Redlands Mesa property owners, but that's a supermajority. So with this many neighbors and landowners opposed to this project, who speaks for us? Shouldn't we have a voice in what happens in our own immediate neighborhood? I would argue that the 1,000-foot setback provision in the land use code is precisely for situations like this. At the planning commission meeting a couple, 3 weeks ago, one of the commission members asked Mr. Hostetler how he arrived at the 1,000-foot setback provision being measured from an adjacent property's house and not the property line. Mr. Hostetler stated that he and the planning director came to that conclusion in one of their very first meetings. Obviously, the provision states the setback is from the property line and not a residence. A notable mistake by the planning department. In denying this application, another planning commission member asked, and I'm paraphrasing, why did we spend so much time in discussions and meetings reworking the land use code if we're not going to enforce what we just approved? Another member voted to deny and said that the neighbors' concerns have not been addressed. The water situation is questionable with the current drought. And he also said this would change the neighborhood negatively forever. As property owners opposed to this chicken facility, I don't believe we're asking for a favor. Mr. Hostetler is. The property he purchased is too small for his proposal as per the initial setback provision in the land use code. All we are asking for is that the county enforce that setback provision that they themselves approved and adopted. I'm sure there are properties in Delta County that would be way more compatible and for Mr. Hostetler and what he wants to do. This one is not. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Fred Paulin? For or against?
Yes, I'd like to speak.
My name's Fred Paulson. I live at 13195 2800 Road, just adjacent to the proposed chicken egg facility at 2128177 North Road, public notice PLN 25-048. I also have another property on 2900 Road, which is in close proximity to the proposed facility. This whole situation is new to me. Going through planning commission and things. I've been very frustrated by the county's continued errors. I work in healthcare. I can't make errors. I'm against this for financial, environmental, and health issues, and I'm adamantly against this commercial industrial facility. Water usage is, of course, of paramount concern in these drought years, which very well may get worse. Delta County has multiple water sources, not just one large municipal system that serves the entire county. And thus, may be more difficult for the planning board and commissioners to control in desperate times. Nonetheless, Delta County Planning Board and commissioners do need to consider overall water usage for the entire county and bigger picture for all of our futures. Cutbacks in water usage must be equitable. I'm also adamantly against decreased setbacks or any variances in this situation. Delta County has a land use code for a reason, and it needs to be adhered to for the greater benefit of Delta County citizens. Changes to the land use code sets precedents, which is extremely difficult to amend in the future. On the healthcare side, magnesium chloride is a medication. I know it's used frequently in Colorado. If the magnesium chloride become concentrated because of different land elevations, this can cause central nervous system depression, decreased cardiac contractility, and lead to death. Needs to be looked at overall in Colorado greater, I think. This facility takes and does not give. Per Mr. Hostetler's voicing in previous notice, the eggs are going to be going to California, and the family's going to be running this. So it's not going to produce new jobs for Delta County. It will take local resources out of the area, giving nothing but dust, waste back. As I said previously in an earlier meeting, our county landfill does not even want to take these bird mortalities. And yet we as neighbors may have to be subject to this if this is approved. Again, I'm adamantly against this proposed project. Thank you.
Thank you. Anna Grossman, for or against?
I'm opposed.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Hannah. I live directly to the north of the proposed operation. The fans, manure pile, and entire length of the 530-foot-long building.
What's your address?
28506 Redlands Mesa Road.
Thank you.
Yes, so I'm directly north. So all of that is proposed to sit 500 feet from and parallel to my property line. Naturally, I'm very concerned about the negative impacts this will have on my health, wellness, and the value of my family's property. These concerns are not unique to me and have been well documented. I don't think permitting the maximum possible reduction in setback protections is at all appropriate in this case. It is important to note that this conditional use permit would be granted based on a modification. That is a modification to our laws. This should not be taken lightly. We should respect that these laws were developed according to a process that included more input and deliberation than we have time for here. We should respect them for what they are and how they came to be. There is a reason that this use is classified as intensive agriculture. The setback distances are not arbitrary, but are protective. Protective of rights that are already granted. As I understand it, we are currently at a junction where the applicant does not yet have the right to do this until it is codified by you, commissioners. Please consider denying this permit in order to protect the rights that are already existing. If you were to grant this permit, you would be creating a new right and opening up a whole new and much more difficult contention. Doing so would essentially decrease the parcel size required for this type of use, denigrate the land use code, and threaten established property rights. It would send a message that Delta County is a place where power and influence have more sway than justice or logic. We are fortunate that we have the structure in place to avoid this. Let's let our laws direct a practical and livable vision of our future. Let this be a place with clear and protective laws that citizens can count on. Please. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Holder, for or against?
He had to leave.
Okay. Okay. Michael Price?
Opposed, I'll speak. Michael Price, 26559 Redlands Mesa Road. I've lived on Redlands Mesa over 50 years. I had something I was going to read. Everyone expressed my opinions much more eloquently than I would. But here are some things I noticed. My wife and I drove up to Powell Mesa, look at the chicken facility up there. We noticed they did plant trees, like he said, but they're planted on the north side of the chicken facility, nothing on the east side. And we know the predominant wind blows west to east. I also have heard that they will spread manure right up to the property line, which means that 1,000-foot setback is pretty essential because it's right at the property line that debris is going to blow. There are two wells on their property. Since we've been there, I've seen the water table drop for well use, and I've seen people when they had an orchard on southwest of us, we saw our water table drop. I have a feeling they will use a lot of that water. And I think it will deplete the water table. And I'm not sure about this. Did they say the trucks coming up to Redlands Mesa on 3100 Road or the other road? I'm sorry, I can't remember. Did they say the trucks would not cross into the other lane when they were coming up the Mesa? I thought I heard that. There is no way in the world a semi can come up there without crossing the lane. And if you're going up or down, you're going to have to hopefully see them in time, stop well ahead of it, because both of those approaches have U-turns in it. So 180s. Thank you. I'm opposed, as you can tell.
Name is Higginbottom. Are you for or against?
Again.
Okay.
My name is Nellie Higginbotham. I live at 13463 2800 Road in Hotchkiss. I live next door to the applicant to the west. I have only a few points I'd like to make. Some have already been made. I wish we weren't here today. I wish the applicant had gotten the correct information from the planning department when they were considering the purchase of the Kreidler property last June, July, August. I wish the applicant had taken it a step further and explored the Delta County LUC with an attorney. I wish the LUC Chapter 2, Section 4, A2, and A4 with a 1,000-foot setback from residential property lines could remain intact, hold water, and not be diminished by a reduction in setback, especially since the language in Chapter 2, Section 4A11, a 50% versus 25% reduction is unclear language. The precedent of reducing ambiguous setbacks will come with its own legal issues down the road. I wish there had been a more definitive water declaration done by Upper Surface Creek Domestic Water Company as to if they really could support this amount of water usage by this type of intensive facility and not affect in any way their domestic users. Instead, they carte blanche said we can supply, which seems incredibly short-sighted in this time of drought crisis and water scarcity. I wish the applicant was more transparent with documentation as to just how much water they will use and how they will cut back if necessary, which I don't believe they can. Instead, domestic water users are already forced to cut back, and this seems highly inequitable because this is our water company as tap holders, and we should have a say if we were to be impacted by future lack of water. I wish the applicant was more transparent in plans of dealing with their factory waste, which is always a consideration with any high-use facility. They can sell chicken die-offs as dog food or send to Delta Compost for composting, but if these outlets don't work out or are too expensive, what then? Already Adobe Butte's landfill is tapped out and will no longer accept any more dead chickens due to environmental concerns. Burying a huge flock of 20,000 chickens on site seems the most feasible as the next alternative, or using the incinerator they say they will have. But over time, doing this over and over, I don't believe is sustainable to the surrounding environment. The waste of cleanup and runoff, the manure storage and spreading is all somewhat undefined in this application as to exactly how this will be done with minimal impact on a continual basis. No studies have been presented. I love living on Redlands Mesa. I love the quietness, the air quality, the all-encompassing views, the respectful neighbors, both homeowners and ranchers. I feel approving this CUP application with the lack of full transparency will have irreversible impacts. Maybe it'll be okay, but if it's not, there's no turning back because this will be a forever facility, one we will be forced to live with minimal safeguards. Thank you for your time.
Suzanne Michaels?
Our family property sits on 12954 2800 road, right smack in the middle of, on all four sides of this. You have Kuntz's facility below us. And we've been told when that was put in that dust mitigation would be done on 2800 road, and that has never been done. There's never been mag chloride put on that road. The dust blows right in our property all the time. Which that's okay. You know, you live with that when you live in the countryside. But my main concern is my mother and her health. In 2019, my mom was hospitalized and put on a ventilation with a severe lung infection. She was in the hospital for several weeks and they couldn't figure out what was going on. When they finally decided within their testing that she had been breathing spores from dried chicken manure that was being spread on the field adjacent to our home by the Kuntz Ranch. And I don't think it was on purpose. It's just a windy day. It's blowing into her property. We weren't even thinking about it. And it was determined that was the cause of her severe illness. She is now permanently on oxygen and has been adversely affected through her quality of life because of this inadvertent manure spreading along the fields. We come from an agriculture community. My family's been on Redlands Mesa for over 100 years. I grew up on that little 3 acres with a working ranch. We had 2 pigs, 2 cows. We sustained our 4-member family off of that. I'm not against agriculture. I am against there not being any oversight on the manure disposal in that area and the fact that it's done right up against homes and with no thought about where that manure dust is being spread. So that's my main concern. And of course, water. We can't have gardens this year because we've been told that we don't have enough water to sustain our gardens and our mesa. This year, our irrigation water is going to go out about mid-July. That means that all of those adjacent farms are going to be watering their cattle and everything else out of Upper Surface Creek domestic water. This just adds to that stress of the water table. And just like everyone else, the water tables on Redlands Mesa in the wells are going down. Lots of people have had to lower their well heads, their pumps down, and dig deeper to get back to the water table. That's my main concerns, and I'm adamantly opposed.
Thank you. Terry Havens, for or against?
I'm against.
Okay.
Thank you for letting me speak today. My name is Terry Havens, and I live at 13495 Redlands Rimrock Road. I'm sorry. I'm 1 mile west of the proposed facility. Before I begin, I just want to acknowledge the applicant, Mr. Hostetler. It's a little awkward because he's behind me, but sir, I'm sorry you've had to go through this. From what I understand, you were given inaccurate information before purchasing the property, and that puts you in a really difficult position. No matter what happens today, I wish the best for you and your family. I'm not alone in that. Okay. Well, I've submitted extensive legal arguments into the record, the 15 documented deficiencies, the mandatory cumulative impact analysis that I haven't received word that that's going to be done. But I won't get into all of that today. Thank you for taking a look at that, and I'm sorry I've pummeled you with so much information, but I just think it's very important to look closely at every one of these applications, no matter where they go, no matter where these facilities are being proposed. So I just before I speak a little bit about myself and this community, I really want to be clear that without a substantial setback reduction, which that in itself is a very shaky legal ground, I think we can all agree, this facility cannot legally be sited on the property. And I think that kind of says it all. So anyway, like I said, my name is Terry. My husband, Michael Coburn, bought our land in 1973. He built our home with logs he brought down from LaRue Creek. They let you do that back then. He turned a lot of sagebrush into alfalfa fields. Over the years, he bought a couple more parcels and put them in agricultural conservation easements, 90 acres that will forever be dedicated to agricultural use. And these days, I do a bit of irrigating, but the field is leased to I'm not sure if he's 2nd or 3rd generation rancher. This spring, there were close to 50 cows calving in my field. He just moved them because they ate everything in sight. So I guess I'm trying to say that many of us here are deeply connected to agriculture. Some people farm, some ranch, some grow orchards, others work in agriculture. Many have protected their land through conservation while continuing to ranch it. Redlands Mesa is strongly and proudly pro-ag, and we are fiercely protective of our traditional farming and ranching heritage. But what is being proposed here today is not traditional agriculture. This is a 20,000 bird confined animal feeding operation, a use that is fundamentally different in both scale and intensity. Traditional agriculture does not remove hundreds of tons of waste each cycle. It does not require incinerators for routine mortality. It does not run industrial ventilation systems around the clock. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's everybody who signed up that is opposed in the room. We'll go to the computer, Lindsay, and who's the first one that there, see if they're for or against.
Lauren Mitchell. Well, hello. Good morning, commissioners. There has been a lot said already so I won't repeat everything. And my heart goes out to the Hostettlers because my first challenge with this whole, I am Lori Mitchell in Paonia, Colorado, 40881, Highway 133. Because my first challenge was, why in the world would you purchase a property without researching the land use code and its restrictions prior to doing this? So my heart goes out to the Hostettlers because I've heard that they actually did reach out. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about just briefly is water use. Water is, it's like gold, right? It's more important than gold. Without it, we aren't here. And a household of 8, let's just look at that. A household of 8 uses anywhere from 200 to 400 gallons of water per day. A feeding operation for chickens with 2,500 birds, 2,000 to 2,500 birds, uses 6,250 to 12,500 gallons of water per day. So if we look at the water supply, let's just look at the family of 8. Let's look at the smaller amount for the feeding operation. That's enough water to supply for 31 families. That's a lot of water usage. And as we know, the water restrictions, right now, Cedar Edge, friends of ours in Cedar Edge, they're on water restriction stage 2 right now. So they're already limited. Although the golf course, I understand, is able to still use water and not be restricted. So what happens with an operation like this, if everyone else is restricted, is an operation like this, because of the fact that there's chickens involved, is that allowed? I also wanted to talk, my background, I'm a holistic health coach by trade. And I personally have known people affected by normal setbacks in feeding operations, chicken feeding operations specifically. So I just wanted to share a little bit. So people with asthma, we've already heard a couple people, COPD, allergies, elderly individuals, as we just heard, children are affected by this. The exposure, the exposure drivers include the ammonia, the endotoxins, the PM 2.5, and the bioaerosols. And while I hear that there's going to be some mitigation, extra precautions put in place, it still does not eliminate that. And concrete floors still allow for that movement. And oh my gosh, the wind alone plays a huge part. If it was in a valley, it might be a little different, but on the mesa, yeah. So odor and stress effects, it can affect sleep, stress, headaches. It causes, it reduces outdoor, you should be reducing outdoor activities if you're in that area. And it really overall, it can just decrease the quality of life for the people there. And so last, I would just like to say that, you know, the prices of land right now are very good. So, you know, maybe they should consider selling that property and purchasing in an
Your
area
time's
that
up,
would
Miss
allow.
Mitchell.
Thank you.
Mhm. Next one, Lindsay.
Anyone else on the phone who would like to speak, can you raise your hand?
I would like to.
Okay.
Oh,
Please say your name and your address.
My name is Joni Lundberg, 13786 2800 Road. And I oppose, and I would like to not really take up much time. Everybody has already expressed all the feelings that I have, but I do have one question. And it's due to the process between a limited use and a conditional use. And this approval is for a conditional use permit. And I do not see an application for a conditional use. So how can you approve something that you don't even, no one has applied for yet? Thank you.
thank you. Okay. Anybody else on the computer?
Anyone else online who would like to say anything? No.
Okay, we'll take a 5-minute break. Okay, thank you. We'll come back into session now. We'll go to the people that are for the operation. Start out with Noah Knox. If you'd like to speak.
My name is Noah Knox from 35754 Fruitland Mesa Road, Crawford. And I guess what I see is kind of a gap between neighbor apprehension and we also have to look at reality. Neighbors having questions is very common and we want to be understanding of that. At the same time, we also have to look at the facts. So as part of the company, we have barns, a couple in California all the way to Virginia, Texas to Wisconsin. So it's nothing new. Very common for neighbors to have questions, but it's been proven over and over that once the barn operation is up and running, it is proves to be very low key and state of the art. So it comes under like you've heard from the applicant, all kinds of outside audits of humane, FDA. So it gets scrutinized because the customers at the end markets, they have concerns where the eggs come from. So there's no loophole for anybody to be leaving places for the not closely monitored operations. So that being said, on the health part of it, for someone walking the barn day after day, I recommend wearing a face mask. But if you're outside from any distance, you're absolutely fine. To drive that point home, I myself have a barn in Crawford. And in the effort to bring it away from the neighbors as far as I could, I brought it up as close to my house as I felt comfortable as far as just having it right in front of my house. So the front end of the barn is a little over 200 feet from my house. I have a wife and 4 children, raising 4 children. And if there would be any question of health issues, trust me, I would not have put that barn there. We have 0 issues. I have curtain sides, so they open all the way in good weather. And I have maybe a handful of times in the evening when the draft was just right. I thought about it, that I smelled a little bit, but absolutely zero issue. And we're that close. So I just want to assure everyone it'll be fine and it's a good thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Richard Blosser?
Good morning, I'm Richard Blosser. I'm at 75755 West Black Canyon Road, Crawford, and also an operator of a 25,000 bird barn. There's several things that come up, the concern of water, and we do live in a drought or in a dry area, but we do monitor our water consumption. I'm averaging 1,300 gallons a day currently. So, some of the numbers that get proposed, I'm afraid are not as accurate as they could be. On setbacks, some of the things that come up, we heard the statement at the Planning Commission meeting and at the neighborhood meeting that the complaint that some feel that ag is ag and everything under that envelope is okay. And the concern was, or the complaint was, that that isn't true, and I would agree with that. Having said that, intensive ag is a statement that's also made in the same manner. That's also unfair. And for what I'm trying to say with that is that my father-in-law in 1987 built a barn the same size as Greg has, and we put 90,000 birds into it. And that's what the regs were written for. The industry standard for the animal units on birds is 200 birds per animal unit. In Delta County, it was chosen to go to 50 birds per animal unit. So from that aspect, there's a dramatic reduction in intensity. We have about 3 pounds of bird per square foot in our barn. My father-in-law's barn had 14 pounds per square foot. A broiler barn is about 8 pounds, 8.5 pounds per square foot. So the intensity varies substantially, and this falls under a lower intensity than what the regs were written for. I could take people to hundreds of barns that are closer than 1,000 feet to the exhaust. I personally wouldn't feel comfortable, just from being a good neighbor, to putting my barn right next to it. But if we'd go to Montrose County, I should have refreshed my memory this morning, but I didn't. I want to say that on the backside, you'd be allowed to have your barn within 10 feet of the property line, and your neighbor could be within 10 feet as well. I wouldn't recommend that. But if there really was an issue, there would be distinct preparation made. The 1,000 feet from a home has shown that fits well, and it has serviced us well. I think that covers most of the issues that I perhaps want to address at this time. If there's questions, we can perhaps.
Okay, thank you. Dave Whittlesey?
Dave Whittlesey, 27497 Buffalo Road. I'm that neighbor who lives less than 1,000 feet from David Kuntz's barn. He's been there 10 years and we have had no problems whatsoever. We don't have any odor, we don't have any dust, we don't have any noise, we don't have any problems with manure. He spreads manure, doesn't affect our life. I just want to say that I think a lot of these people are just scared to death. And they've been told things, they believe things. The reality of it is, for our family, for my family, this has had absolutely no effect on me. And I want to reiterate what Mr. Blosser just said. Delta County's regs are equating 0.02 pounds a bird, equating 400 animal units. This is much more closer to 50 animal units, so the impact of this facility is just much lower than than what you would think. So a lot of people, I think, are making their decisions and their comments based on a much higher density than what's actually going to occur. So again, I live next to this place, no problems. I think I support this facility.
Okay, thank you. David Coons?
David Kuntz, 28053 Buffalo Road. Yeah, we built a barn 10 years ago. Went through a lot of this same stuff. And I get very frustrated over this because all of these facts they're not facts, numbers that keep getting thrown out. These chicken barns are computerized. The feed is monitored. Every day we have to record how much water, how much feed, what are the birds weighing. That's how we keep track of their health. Our chicken house consistently is about 1,000 gallons a day. In the middle of the summer, we might get up to 1,300 gallons, but that's because misters are running to keep it cool in there. So the water issue should be pretty straightforward. Upper Surface Creek, can you provide 1,000 gallons a day or not? They say they can. The AUMs, I don't know where the county come up with that number, but 20,000 chickens, 4 pounds of chicken per chicken, that's 80,000 pounds. 80,000 pounds of livestock, any kind of livestock, is not 400 animal units. It's 50 to 60. Lastly, is the dust issue. Everybody from the North Fork drove by a place out here, has 8 barns. You do that every day when you come to Delta. There's no dust. There's no toxic waste coming out of those facilities. Yes, when we built our barn, I told my boys, wear a mask when you're in there. Breathe in dust, any kind of dust, every day, day after day, is probably not real healthy. I never wear a mask. I don't go in there more than once a week probably, but and going on the outside of the building, I'm out there this time of year continually checking the cows. And until you get 50 feet from the building, you cannot smell it. You never see dust, but you can sometime, especially in the evening, smell it. So fertilizer, we're worried about fertilizer, worried about soil health. That chicken manure, and I get a bunch of it hauled in once I found out what it did, has increased my hay production by 25%. I'm building soil health. I'm not tearing down soil health by using this chicken waste. It's been great for my fields. Lastly is the economy to this county. This barn needs 100 acres of corn a year. That's quite a little corn. So there's going to be some farmer out there that's going to be real happy to see this barn go in, and it's going to contribute to the economy of this county. Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, for the record, Terry, even though Mr. Kuntz and I share the last name, we are unrelated. Everybody should know that.
What was that? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
For the record, and I wanted Terry to make sure she got this, Mr. Kuntz and I share the same last name, but we are unrelated.
Thank you.
TK?
Tom K, 15368 2525 Road. This feels like deja vu all over again. Why are we here? And more important, why am I here? Well, in 2018, the BOCC created the Confined Animal Feeding and Operation Working Group to formulate rules and regulations for the animal feeding industry in Delta County. I was a member of this group. The working group consisted of people from Crawford to Cedar Edge, Peach Valley to Paonia. The directive from the BOC to the working group was to provide an applicant intending to construct an animal feeding operation with the clarity of standards and assurance of approval if they met the criteria and standards. The metrics for an application were clear. Setbacks were based on the number of animal units in each facility, with reductions to setbacks based on operational criteria approved by the CAFO working group. There was never any metrics based on what the county assessor designates as residential use. The working group metrics assured someone could locate an animal feeding operation on 35 acres by meeting certain operational metrics. This application is on 120 acres. The working group assured applicants this type of challenge would not happen again. Something is wrong when it's deja vu all over again. The working group spent 6 months reviewing standards in multiple states and counties to formulate a framework suited to Delta County with the full expectation these recommendations would become integrated into the land use code. Did the BOCC fail to keep their pledge to incorporate these recommendations into the land use code? Commissioner Fuller, you get a pass. Mr. Hill, Commissioners Land and Kuntz, you don't, because you were part of that. Fix this. I approve this application with no conditions, since the PC attached no conditions to their recommendations. Update the land use code with the recommendations set in front of you in 2018, so we don't have deja vu all over again. And resolve the numbers associated with calculating the number of chickens that consist of one animal unit. A brief online research finds that it ranges from 0.005 to 0.033, depending on the manure systems and the bird type. For this application, the metric would be 0.005, not 0.02, as is being applied. Thank you.
Thank you. Liz Hedrick?
Thank you. My name is Liz Heydrich. I live at 41333 D Road in Crawford, Colorado. I'm a licensed real estate broker. I will begin by reading a letter from a neighbor to a chicken barn in Crawford. I will then address my own opinions and hopefully have enough time to finish with a letter from my son, who is a rancher. This letter is from Miss Penny Lerman, who resides at 2984 Black Canyon Road in Crawford, Colorado. Dear Delta County, and to whom it may concern, initially when a chicken barn facility was being built right next to our property and home, we had very strong feelings of concern. We thought there would be issues with air quality and overall devaluation of our home and property. Once the barn was constructed, we still had fears and concerns, but they were proved to be unfounded. We have never had any issues with the air or smells or even traffic and big trucks. Our neighbors that live and work on their chicken farm have worked to make sure their barn is clean, and we just love them now. They have been wonderful neighbors and saved me a time or two through the years when my husband was not available to help me. We chose to move to the country. We love it. And with the country comes agricultural activities like cows, sheep, and chickens. We all need these things to survive. And I needed to remind myself when we moved here, if we wanted a gated community, we would have built our home near one. But we wanted the country, and we coexist with not one, but at least 5 chicken barns within less than 2 miles from our home. We have absolutely no issues. None of the fears we had ever came true. We are sad to be selling our Crawford home because of work-related issues for my husband. We are selling for the full asking price. I might make a note that no one has ever said that they did not want to buy our home due to the chicken barns. It was the very small living room that my husband put in there, not the chicken barn, that made it take a minute to sell. Sincerely, Penny Lerman. I am the #1 selling licensed real estate broker in the North Fork. That is a fact. I am not saying that to be braggadocious. I probably will not be the #1 selling licensed real estate broker in the years to come because I choose to come here and take a stand on this issue and others. But it means that I have a lot of expertise in the area of selling real estate, over 50 closings last year. I have sold and resold properties in the vicinity of chicken barns. It has never been an issue of devaluation, and that is just a fact that I cannot change. It is in the public records. It is in the MLS. And I love these people that are part of our community that have come here, not all new, some older. I'm newer. I've been part of subdividing properties, a lot of them agricultural. And there's a balance. But I've learned a lot along the way, being an outsider coming in. The first time a cow broke a mirror off my vehicle when they were herding cattle down the road, I was very upset at Mr. Tracy until I learned the real laws of the land and learned how to coexist and work with it. My time is up. Do I have time to read Brady's letter as a secondary person to
No,
submit?
We got to stay within the 3 minutes.
Okay, all right. Well, he's a 4th generation rancher and he stands with the chicken farmers.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Thank you. That's everybody that signed up to speak in the room. Lindsay, anybody on the computer that would like to speak for the chicken barn?
If there's anyone online who'd like to speak, can you just raise your hand, please? No, and you? No, sir.
Okay, thank you. We'll close the public comment period. Mr. Hostetler, anything else that you'd like to say? Any the concerns you'd like to address? Okay, we'll take that as a no then. Okay, we'll close the comment period and now we'll move on to the discussion between the commissioners. One issue keeps coming up is the water issue. We have 2 letters from the water company stating that they do have the capacity to meet the water demands. And I have to kind of hang my hat on what they say because I don't know their water rights. I don't know their capacity, how big their lines are, how big their pumps are. But if you give me a letter stating we can handle it, I'll have to hang my hat on that.
Commissioner, I am concerned about the conversion of the water rights from municipal and ag to commercial for this venture. Did we get a clear read on that? For Upper Surface Creek?
I think in the first, Sean, in the first letter, wasn't it stated that they,
In the newest letter, it was stated that they specifically understood that it's for a medium animal feeding operation, a poultry operation.
I guess what I would like to say is, I appreciate everyone's being here today. This is a huge operation we got going on here, and just to listen to all the comments and questions, concerns shows just a genuine interest in what's going on in our community, and really appreciate everybody being here and stating what you have to say. I appreciate the planning department, and we understand there's been some missteps along the road on this one. We live in a fallen world, so we have to deal with these things as they come up. I appreciate this letter right here that states all the conditions, possible conditions of approval. Some serious thought and time has gone into that as well. So we're taking all this into account. I just can't get past this whole idea of why we're here today. These are important. All your comments are important. But I just keep coming back to the fact of what are we looking at here? We're looking at a piece of property that cannot, without this reduction in setback, be put on this piece of property. It just won't fit. And I just keep landing on that. If we had not had that comment, if that was not part of this discussion, we would not be here today. Correct me if I'm wrong. But that's why we're here, because we're looking for a reduction in the setback, and the setback was put in place for a reason by the land use code to mitigate some of these things that we're talking about. And so if we grant the setback reduction to 500 feet, which is what it's going to take to make this thing work, the 25% will not work. It has to be the 50%. We're kind of shoehorning in to an existing area, an operation that realistically, had this been presented beforehand, 100% across the board, we wouldn't be here today. We wouldn't be asking for this reduction. And so that's where I'm landing. And again, I appreciate all the comments and the concerns, and whether they actually will be concerns that come to fruition, I don't know. But for today's purposes, for this hearing, I keep landing on that. Why are we here? And it's that 500-foot reduction that we're seeking. And I'm not comfortable doing that based upon everything that's before us. And there are hundreds of pages in this report. There's been numerous comments made here today. And I respect everybody's opinions and all that on this. I just can't get past that reduction requirement. To make this thing work, we're gonna force something to work on a piece of ground that meets all the rest of the criteria. That's the aggravating part of this, is that had this piece of property been anywhere else, you are completely, even though everything is good to go on this, with that one piece that's missing. And with that, I'll shut up for a minute.
Land use code decisions are very hard because they affect neighbors for decades. They affect the applicant and the business that they want to thrive in. And as anybody puts a business in, they want it to be successful. They want to be able to grow it. They want to be able to build another one somewhere else. Any else? Commissioner Coons?
Yeah, I'm struggling. As soon as you create a variance like this intentionally, it sets a new precedent for anything else that comes behind it. On the other hand, we understand that the impacts of a facility like this would be de minimis, particularly in an agricultural neighborhood like Redlands Mesa. I'm not sure where I'm going to land on this. I'm still concerned about the conversion of the water rights, but I don't know yet, Commissioner.
Well, as far as the water rights, you read that letter.
I saw it.
Yeah.
It's a fairly short letter.
You're acknowledging the animal.
I'm kind of wondering what kind of authority this letter actually has.
Coast State Water Engineer Jason Ullman, so.
And their water company's attorney, and the state engineer. Well, they're entitled to a decision.
If you don't have adequate information or you want them to consider, you able as well.
Commissioner, I agree with you. People deserve a quick and certain decision in a case like this, but I'm just not ready to make that. We heard a lot of testimony today, a lot of concerns. I'd like a little more time to contemplate. And in that regard, I'm going to make a motion. We table PLN 25048 Hostetler to the next BOCC.
And what are we gonna gain between now and then? We're gonna gain some additional information about the water. What are you?
I think we'll gain some time and perspective on the ability to make a render decision here that's correct, as we can be.
Well, I'll be honest with you, I was about 100% convinced that I was gonna make a motion that we go by the recommendation of the planning commission and deny this, but with this new water question brought up and the conversion of Leon Lake water coming back this direction, I kind of agree with you. I think that some more time might just shed some more light on that and give us a more informed decision about exactly what that looks like. So having said that, I will second your motion to table this until the next BOCC meeting.
Motion and second on the floor. Any further discussion?
Maybe just some clarification, Chair. It sounds like you had, public comment. So it doesn't sound like you're going to reopen public comment for the 19th. That's maybe it just should be clear for everyone's sake. That sort of thing. So you would pick up on the 19th with further commissioner discussion and.
Correct.
Is that accurate?
That's accurate in my.
Correct.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of tabling this to the next BOCC meeting, say yay.
Yeah.
Yay.
Those opposed, no, no. So we will pass this to the next BOCC meeting.
19.
Please make sure it should be the May 19th, whatever time. I would recommend choosing a time and putting it on the record right now.
Okay. May 19th will be the next BOCC meeting. Don't know what time yet because of other agenda items.
10 a.m. Yeah.
Can we do it at 8:45 after we call the meeting into order? For the 19th. Sean, is that okay?
That's fine.
Commissioners? 8:45 on the 19th.
Okay. There's any other commissioner business come before the board?
I have none.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Drive careful.